Well, good morning once again, Friendship Village. This is your voice of Friendship Village coming at you again today. And we are the podcast for the campus that brings you the news, exciting things that are happening, maybe a joke or two, and of course, interesting guests. And we have an interesting guest today. His name is Steve. His last name you might recognize as
Craven.
Craven. Mary's son is here to honor us with his presence and during this interview, and we thank you, Steve, for being here.
No problem.
All right, glad to have you. And today's program, we've decided, would be brought to you by the Cold Creek Cafe. Now, by now, most everyone, I would think, in this building anyway, and across the campus, has found out that the Cold Creek Cafe brings you some great food. Thank you, Susie, for the great food you provide. I love her soups. They are always just very tasty and very filling, but with good things, good tastes, yes. So, one of the things I wanted to mention about the Cold Creek Cafe is it has an interesting joke up on the wall. If ever you've seen it, it's right next to the TV. Take a look next time. Anyway, it goes something like this. This lady was talking to her friend, and she said, I gave my handyman a to-do list, and he came back and he finished items 1, 3, and 5. So I said, well, how is this? What about all the others on the list? And he said, well, ma'am, I only do odd jobs. Thank you, Mary. Okay, good. So let's get on with our interview. That's why we're all together. And once again, Mary's going to head it off. Take it away, Mary.
Thank you, Phil. Today, as Phil said, our guest is Steve Craven. He's my son, my one and only son, and he's from the Chicago, Illinois area. So he is probably the guest that has traveled the farthest to do our podcast.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And so we are very glad that he's here today. So welcome, Steve. We will start with...
That's quite a distinction. You're the guest who traveled the farthest to come.
Is there a reward for that or anything?
Well, certainly. We'll have a plaque or something.
Maybe she'll buy dinner tonight.
No, you have to buy dinner out. I buy dinner in.
Yeah. So you're going out tonight, so you're paying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We'll get started with our interview. So, Steve, we're going to let you tell where you were born and raised.
I was born and raised in Stanhope, Iowa. It's over between Webster City and Ames would be a good landmarks to go by that, about an hour and a half west of here. Mm-hmm. Spent the first 18 years in that area. And then when my parents bought their second grocery store, we went up to northwest Iowa. So. And
then from there, you went to college.
Yeah, I went to Esterville to a junior college for a year, and because I wanted to get out. My parents bought their first grocery store when I was 9 years old, and so I started working in the store at age mm-hmm. 9. And so by age 18, it's like I wanted to get out of the grocery business and go do something else. So I thought I'd be an accountant, because then I could be a CPA and make a lot of money and then retire when I was 45. That was my goal back then.
Okay.
So went to 1 year junior college. And after all those accounting classes, realized I didn't want to be an accountant. So I took what they call a gap, where nowadays people will take a year off in college to find themselves. Mm-hmm. I ended up taking a 7-year gap working at the grocery store.
You went back to the store?
For my parents, yeah. And ended up working for about 7 years and became the assistant manager. And we did double the business in the first 3 years of the store. So it was a great experience. Uh-huh. And then I just realized I didn't want to do that for another 40 years. So I thought I got to do something else. And I met my future wife, and we got married and both went back to college together. And because she wanted to get her master's degree. And I thought, well, it's a good time for me to finish my bachelor's. And so we went to the University of Iowa. Uh-huh. And I got a marketing degree and started working for Oscar Mayer. Okay. And a couple years later, I was involved with a Wienermobile. I brought that all over the state of Iowa and visited stores. And after graduating from Iowa, I realized I had a real inkling for education. I couldn't give it up. So a year later, I was at Drake University and I picked up my MBA.
Okay.
And then about 6 months later, they moved me out to Seattle to do a job. Was out there for 6 years, working for, at that point, it was Kraft and Oscar Mayer. And then they had also, another company called General Foods was merged in with that. So there was 3 different companies kind of all together.
Oh.
And spent 6 years out there. My first 2 children were born out there. And then we decided to move back to the Chicago area because that's where our corporate office was. And came back to Chicago, got closer to the family again, even though we loved it out in the Seattle area.
Yeah.
Whole different climate, different view. Came back, worked several jobs within the Chicago area for Kraft. Kraft purchased Nabisco, and so we merged the Nabisco business in with Kraft. Then later on they bought Cadbury, and we merged that in. And then they split off, Mondelez was split off from Kraft in 2013 or so, and then I stayed with the Kraft side. And then 2015, Heinz bought Kraft, and that's when I left because they changed the structure and it's no longer the same company. So I left there in 2015. Went to work for a small cheese manufacturer called Saputo Cheese. Did that for about 3.5 years. And then left there, and I'm working for a company called IRI, or Information Resources Inc. is their name. They're based in Chicago, but they're a global company. And we take the information off the cash registers, and then we household panels and things like that, and we analyze the sales data and help manufacturers understand, who their shopper is, how they're trending, and how to grow sales and that type of thing.
Okay. Wow. That's a bunch.
Yeah.
He's been very diversified.
Yeah. And all these companies sort of merging together, like pretty soon there's just going to be one food company? No.
Oh, they split them off. They buy and sell. That type of thing.
Okay. All right.
And with this company that he's with, he's been able to travel a little bit more.
Yeah. So I travel around to see some of my clients. I've got 2 of them in Southern California. So before COVID, I was going out there once a month and spending a week with them on site at their offices. And then I picked up a couple in the New Orleans area, and I've got a couple other ones in some other parts of the country. And when COVID calms down, we'll start traveling again.
Mm-hmm. Any international travel in your business? No? Okay.
Not yet.
Not yet.
You had always hoped to do a little bit of international traveling when you were in college, but...
Yep.
Yeah. You mean like fun? For fun?
No.
No, but I've picked up a hobby this summer, Ancestry.com. I've gone back and been tracing all my family, and now I want to go back to Europe and see the sites, because I've traced back where a lot of my ancestors originated from, between England, Ireland, Scotland, Germany, Holland, that type of thing. So I'd like to go back and see some of the places, because I have some history.
Mary's ancestry come from?
I actually brought a big deck to have her review with me this weekend. She's basically English, Irish, and German. Right.
Wow. There you are.
My father's side, we realized there's some more Dutch than I thought we had. There's a little bit of French. Actually, there's a little Native American that I didn't know about. I've traced
really?
2 of my grandfathers in the 1600s married some Native American women, and so I'm capturing all this into a great big Word document.
Okay.
Then I'll pass it around to the family.
Oh, neat. All right.
We'll be very anxious to read a lot of it. It'll take a lot of reading time.
I know Mary has a yen for doing research in a lot of different topics, which helps out our show. So you sort of have that same inkling or yen.
I just had the curiosity. Like what countries did my ancestors come from? And this way I've traced everyone back. The problem is most of them came in the 1600s. So there's lots of generations to trace back, because each one branches off like every 20 to 30 years. You got a new generation, and so you've got to trace them all back. And it's taken a lot longer than I expected, but it's. I tell my family it's a digital jigsaw puzzle. You just keep putting the pieces together.
So tell us about your children.
I have 3 children. I've got a daughter that's 24, a son 22, and another daughter that's 20. The 2 oldest are out of college and starting their careers. My youngest is in her sophomore year in college.
Okay.
And they're spread out a little bit too.
Yeah, one's in Minneapolis, one's in Denver, and the other one's in Southern California.
Gosh, all right. Well, there's another reason to travel, just to visit.
Sure.
Any grandchildren?
No.
So far?
No.
Any in the future? That you know?
Someday.
Someday.
I
Okay.
would assume.
Yeah, all right. So did any of them sort of follow in your footsteps?
No, they're all fine arts.
Fine arts.
Yeah,
Okay.
my daughter's a dancer, my son's a musician, and my youngest daughter's a dancer.
Oh, really? Two of these? Okay. I'm looking at
No,
the pictures.
that's my wedding picture there. Those are my sisters.
Oh, yeah, your daughters, not.
His kids are over there. We'll look
Yeah,
at them later.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking.
And all of his family came to Chicago for Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That
they're back,
was
and then
nice.
they'll be back for Christmas. So.
Oh, neat. Well, listen, we'd like to just interrupt briefly and just remind our listeners once again that this podcast is being brought to you by the Cold Creek Cafe. Thank you once again, Susie, for your fine dining things that you do for us. I know it's a popular place to go and get a quick lunch or have some great soup. Or
She makes good pastries too.
pastries.
Yes, I got a good caramel roll there yesterday.
Ah,
And I've noticed the coffee pot is always on there.
yes. I like that feature. Always on. Yeah. So we want to also just mention for our viewers, no, they're not viewers, they're listeners, that if anyone is interested in being on the podcast and being interviewed, you could surely make that happen by going to the secretary in the building you live in and letting that be known, and they'll be in touch with us, and we'll be back in touch with you and make it happen. So we're always looking for interesting people to interview. And speaking of interesting people to interview, let's get back to Steve.
Okay. Tell us about your wife.
I met my wife. She was a school teacher. She's from about an hour north here in Charles City. As we were dating, she told me she's going to go back and get her master's degree, and that's when I was thinking, well, maybe it's time for me to go back to school too.
Yeah.
So we got married, and a year later we both went back to school. She taught for 14 years, and then as we started having children, she decided she wanted to stay home and take care of the kids, which was
Okay.
a great thing for
Yeah.
us, and she's been busy with that ever since.
Okay.
And
Well,
she's
now that
also
they're-
she's also been a big part in the girls' lives with the dance companies
Yeah.
that they've been involved with. She's been very involved with that.
She's volunteered for a lot of different programs at schools. She ran the being a teacher, she understood what teachers appreciate. So she ran the teacher appreciation program at the middle school for a while, and they did a soup thing during parent-teacher conferences. They did pies at the holidays. They did several things like that the teachers just enjoyed. And she's also volunteered at the high school. And then she got involved with the costuming at the dance school that my daughters went to, and their big performance is the Nutcracker at Christmas time. So she got really good at sewing, being a seamstress, and fitting costumes for kids every year. So you use the same costume, you got to put on a new person each year.
Yeah.
So she coordinated all that for a number of years.
So your daughter's dance training and experience were in Chicago.
Yeah, they started in northern Chicago. Yeah. They each started about age 3, age 4.
Really?
Yeah,
Huh.
and they've danced, all through grade school and high school, and that's what they wanted to continue.
So I'm
doing.
picturing a little girl with her arms up like this.
Yeah,
and
little
doing a
girl,
little
their hair all pinned up,
Yeah.
wearing a pink, leotard and
tutu.
tutus. Yeah.
Tutu, that's the word I was trying to think of.
And then now my oldest daughter, she's in a dance company in Minneapolis, and she's actually performing today. She's got a performance, and she performed a couple of weeks ago on another program.
So we're talking ballet,
No, it's more modern dance.
modern dance. Okay.
Yeah, she still does ballet moves, but it's more in a modern interpretation.
You were a great dancer, weren't you? I bet you.
Well, I
Back
don't
in your
say
days.
great, but I do like to dance. I've danced at both of my grandchildren that got married. I danced at both of their wedding dances, and that was fun.
Okay.
And but I haven't had the opportunity to dance anywhere lately. We don't have a band that comes in.
Yeah.
We don't have music that we can dance to. It'll be nice if and when we could get back to that someday.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but they put down that dance floor. They had
Yeah,
that
that's
over
right.
the other building, and they put down this dance floor, and it was really nice to dance on. And I enjoyed it, but I just thoroughly enjoyed dancing at both of the wedding dances of my grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
That was a highlight.
Did they do the chicken?
It's usually a wedding dance.
Oh.
Yes, they did it at one of our children's wedding dance. I think it was Diane's.
Well, I
Do
like
you have
to.
Melissa's?
I like to say it this way: that I think inside of me there is a dancer.
Yeah,
He's
there
just
is.
itching to get out. And if I weren't so cautious about it, maybe I'd let it out a little more. But
Let your hair down.
let my hair down. Yeah. So it's just. I think it's dancing is in my bones.
Yeah. Well, that's why we like music. You're a musician,
Yeah.
and I'm into the music
Yeah.
because I can play piano
Yeah.
and sing and dance and all that. And you do that. I told him you played the guitar
Yeah.
and the bongos, and you entertain at some of the care centers.
And when I entertain, I'm playing a Tupperware drum. If you can imagine a big Tupperware bowl that I invert, put it between my knees, and I got a couple of brushes, and anyway, that's our
Entertain for the residents,
That's
and they
all.
love it dearly.
entertainment, yeah.
My son's a musician. He's been playing guitar since first grade, so he has about 8 guitars that he's collected over the years, and
Yeah.
acoustic, electric, jazz, a bass guitar, things like that. And
Yeah.
he graduated from college back in May, and he's been doing some work for a stereo company, and he's been doing a lot of gigs and performing as a musician.
Oh,
So that's what he's enjoying doing. So,
great.
and if he gets bored, he's always got the guitar in his lap. He's playing a guitar.
And you took up an instrument in your later
Yeah,
life.
I'm always up for a challenge. So as the kids were doing their instruments earlier, I found out that they had violin instructor, and I thought that'd be very interesting to play. And I talked about it for a while. Then my wife surprised me for my birthday. She had a card that said, "There's a gift certificate in here," and she goes, "Follow your dreams." And I go, "What gift certificate would be following my dreams?" I'm thinking, is this for like a golf course? Like you can go golfing? And I opened up and it was for the music school that my kids were at. And I go,
Oh, my
and then the
goodness.
next thing she handed me was a violin that she had rented. And so I started taking violin lessons. I did it for about 8 years.
Wow.
And I enjoyed playing violin.
Oh, neat.
Surprising what you can accomplish in the later years. Not that they're that old, but things that you put off doing when you were busy working, raising children, going to school and college.
Right.
And then after things kind of settle down, you can go back and pick up some of those fun hobbies.
Yeah, neat. So you still play it?
I set it down a while back. I got to pick it back up again and
Okay.
pick it up. I'd like to continue taking lessons because there's some music I'd like to try to play that I don't think I think I would need instruction to do it. So
Oh. Now, did you have any musical training before the violin
my mother had me
lessons?
playing piano when I was real
yeah.
little. So I think third through 6th grade, but then she finally let me give it up when I wasn't practicing. So I can read sheet music and I can play my right hand for single notes. Which
Okay.
is about what the violin range is. So that there's very little bass clef in the violin.
Okay.
So that was pretty handy. So that was my previous music experience.
I wanted all of my children to learn how to play the piano because my mother played the piano, she sang, and she also played the violin.
Oh.
And so I wanted my children to have some music experience other than being in the chorus at school or something.
Mhm.
And my daughters ended up both being in band. And as they went to college, they were in the dance group. And my one daughter played piano quite a bit. So
Okay.
we've always stayed with me. Our whole family is very, very, very musical. Everybody has either played piano, played an instrument, or danced.
Mhm.
So they've all been in school bands, school musicals, dance troupes. So
Well, I remember as a kid, I had an occasion to maybe think about piano lessons, but then I don't know. to me, boys didn't take piano lessons. That was for nerds, So I talked myself out of it real quickly. And I wished I hadn't.
Right.
I wished I had kind of stuck with it.
You have to have a parent that pushes you a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, I pushed him because the girls were taking piano and I wanted him to learn piano. And he did it pretty willingly for a couple of years, and then he slowly,
Yeah.
then he got involved with middle school sports and thought he didn't have time. And then he was working at our grocery store and he didn't have time. So there were excuses that he used. But I think he's very appreciative that he did get those years and
Yeah.
learned the music.
Is that right, Steve?
I'm glad she thinks that. Yeah.
You're glad. I'm glad she thinks that. Is that the same as saying I'm glad that
I'll agree with her. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now, did your two daughters, did they go further than 6th grade?
Oh yes, my one daughter went clear through high school playing the piano and the organ.
Okay.
And my other daughter played piano, and she sang.
Right.
My oldest daughter can sing real good. And she married a guy that's a musician too. He plays the piano. My son-in-law plays the piano and does not read music. So we've had a lot of musical get-togethers in our family reunion sometimes. I always had my piano at home, and we'd gather around the piano and play and sing, and we need to have a band. But I don't know if we'd never get all the grandkids together with the band.
Give them all a flute or,
Oh, mostly guitars.
mostly guitar. Yeah, that's right. Mostly guitars. You could make some good music.
Mm-hmm.
The Traveling Cravens. Yay. What was I thinking of? Let's see. I had a thought and it escapes me.
What is Steve going to do in his retirement?
Oh, that's related. Yeah.
I'm holding off as long as I can. When I switch companies, I take a few months break, and I drive my wife crazy. She says, "You got to go back to work."
Go back to work.
Yeah.
Okay.
So because I don't have that many hobbies,
Okay.
so I've thought about it, and I just keep putting it. It's like, well, I'll retire at this point. No, I'll wait and retire at this point. It's like I'm not in any hurry to retire.
Okay.
I'm enjoying this, especially this job I'm doing now. I really enjoy it. So it's like,
Yeah.
and it's stimulating. I like working it. Yeah, it's very creative. So it's like, why give it up?
Yeah.
I finally understand the expression. It's not work if you're having fun.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm there. I get
Yeah.
it.
And you also love to work outdoors.
Yeah.
He has a beautiful yard. He does a lot of yard work. I want to say gardening, but it's flowers.
Landscaping.
Landscape.
Landscaping. That's
Yeah.
it. That's it.
Okay. Could you see yourself maybe someday, you and your wife moving into a place like this?
Not my wife.
Oh.
She wants she'll stay in a house as long as she can.
Okay.
I don't mind having someone else cook for me. So, and you guys have a great cafeteria downstairs.
Yeah.
I don't know yet. Haven't thought
Okay.
that far.
He's way too young.
Way
Yeah.
too young. Yeah, probably so. Okay.
And then his children may end up making that decision for him too.
Yeah.
Like mine did.
I'm being nice to them now, so we'll see what they decide later.
So they came to you one day and as a group and said, Mary, you need to go someplace.
They offered me the chance to move to Waterloo.
Okay.
How would you like to move to Waterloo? I was living in Webster City. I said, oh, that wouldn't be too bad.
Yeah.
And they said, well, there's a lot of retirement homes over here, apartments. We could find you something. So they did some searching, and they came up with Friendship Village. They liked the plan. They
Okay.
did the life care plan. They thought that was very good, and it has been really, really, really
Really
good.
good, yeah.
And my kids all agreed this was the best place,
Okay.
even though I've had to move 3 times since I've been here. But
You always move up, though.
yeah, I do. It gets a little better each time.
There you
So, no, I was very happy with the move and very happy with the decision.
go. Okay.
And I've moved a lot in my lifetime,
Uh-huh.
as a lot of my friends know. And my kids have moved a lot. So, moving is just something I'm used to.
Yeah.
And I make adjustments. So, and I make new friends.
Make new friends.
Hmm.
Thin out your belongings at every move.
Yes.
That's what we had to do, I remember. Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, I'd like to offer a little joke. That'd be all right with you, Steve?
Sure.
kind of dipping into your time here, but
Well,
anyway.
about done.
Okay, well, this is a joke about a nice, I've said this before on podcasts, but I think it bears repeating. It's kind of a nice story. This older lady, a nice sweet grandma, went to the grocery store, and when she came out and she had several bundles of groceries, she discovered that she had locked the car and the key was in the ignition. So she began to panic just a little bit. Then she said, "Oh Lord, you got to send me, please, somebody to help me through this mess." And right at that time, up drives this big Harley Davidson, and a big burly man gets off, and he's got tattoos all over, big skull cap, and he just looks... Well, anyway, he said to her, he said, "Ma'am, is there something wrong here I can help you with?" And she said, "Oh, could you? I locked my keys in the car. Could you help me get in there?" "Oh, yeah, no problem." So he goes in and fidgets around, and 20 seconds later, the car door is open. And she was so grateful, she ran up to him and hugged him and said, "Oh, thank you, Lord, for sending me this nice man to help me." And he looks down at her and he said, "Ma'am, I'm not so nice. I just got out of prison for car theft." And she hugged him again and said, "Oh, thank you, Lord, you sent me a professional." I like that one every time I hear it.
Yes, I do too.
So we are about at the end of our podcast time. And once again, we want to thank you, Steve, for coming and being a part of this. And you have livened up our day, that's for sure. I'm sure this will be a great podcast people will enjoy. So thank you for that. And any closing words from you, Mary?
No, I think I've probably said enough.
Said enough. Okay. All right. So as we like to do at the close, let's say this. May the good Lord bless and keep you until we meet once again. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.